Welcome to Critical Café,
Join us as we chat about the latest episode,
the campaign as a whole, and Critical Role in general.
all while we partake in a delicious cup of coffee. So grab yourself a tasty beverage
Settle into your favorite cozy spot.
and get ready for a little geek philosophy. Welcome to Critical Cafe Live. Ooh, music's coming in hot. Let me see if I can fix that for everybody. There we go. Better? All right.
I mean,
We had
it sounded
technical
okay to me.
Oh, good. Maybe it's just on my end. You know,
Yeah.
that's the thing about like producing at the same time as being on the show. It's just you kind of do what you can. Hopefully my mic is coming in this time. Okay. So we're off to a better start than last time. So
Yes.
welcome everybody to Critical Cafe Live. This is where we talk about everything Critical Role. We're back to campaign 3 this time. My name is Brian, and as always, this is Crystal.
Hi.
And hello. And so we're going to jump right in because not our normal night. So we're running against the clock a little bit this time because Critical Role goes live in about 59 minutes. So we're going to do what we can to get our take on things in within the time span that we've got. And then get everybody ready so they can jump over to Critical Role if you're catching us live. Although, hey there. Oh, great. Hey, hello. We've got
Hey, Harry.
got Harry in the chat with us. If anybody else is in the chat, feel free to jump in. We'll bring you in as we move to the chat messages. As always, we'll be leveraging Danny Carr's review. I'll jump over to that in just a second. For those of you that are new to the channel, Geek Philosophy covers everything from tabletop role-playing games like D&D and others, obviously Critical Role, and a bunch of other things. So if you want to check us out just in general, see what kind of things we've got going on, you can head over to geek-philosophy.com. You'll get a link to our channel, which you're already on, but you can get links to other things like our Etsy shop, where we have things like digital game accessories or some stickers that we've been producing. Actually, art from the famous Crystal herself, who has been producing these stickers, and we sell them to the shop. So things like character class stickers and all kinds of stuff. So check it out if you're interested. You can also get, your very own official Geek Philosophy mug. We've got shirts over there. Anyway, feel free to go check out the merch and everything if you want to support the stream. Here we go. Let's jump over and get into the screen share. Like I mentioned, we are gonna be using Danny Carr's Critical Recap. She does a great job, as always, recapping everything that went on in the show, where it links to the video, but then it also gives a breakdown. So we're going to go through the breakdown and then give our thoughts on it. Okay, we're on the road. So we've got Orem, Ashton, Laudna, Denise, with a $sign, Prism, and Bordor. And they're heading towards civilization. They all met up in the last episode. Happenstance got them all ported where they were, and they were able to kind of kick things off with meeting and going through all kinds of shenanigans as they were learning about each other. And Prism explains that she works for the Cobalt Souls, Mages, and Iman, and she's sort of an apprentice. She's been an apprentice for a while. She describes herself as a perpetual apprentice. She also offers to find or steal some type of scrying spell so they can look in on their friends. It works better when they're using an item that belongs to someone that they're scrying upon. So Denise has a clump of Dariax's hair. Again, her ex is Dariax, which is great. For those of you that watched EXU, that was Matt's character during that time. Laudna finds a road, which Prism, her book, Dinios, identifies as the outer walk in the northern part of Isilra. And so this lets them know kind of where they are. So they see a sign that either goes to Endevar or Hearthdale. And since Hearthdale's the closest, they head that way. And they go to this... they may end up going to Vasselheim, but for now they're just kind of trying to find people because they were stranded on their own after being teleported. They come to a crossroads where there's sort of a gallows site there before some gravestones, and it was used by the Valley Coalition to execute criminals. Gotta think that that might be a little bit of a trigger for Laudna, but we'll see. And then the ground itself has been disturbed, and so not wanting to tangle with anything that comes out of the graves, Bordor cites a fear of zombies, so they are like, hey, let's keep moving. So that's kind of how things are kicked off. So yeah, so what are your thoughts about the beginning of this? I know, let's say hi to Harry as well. So bring you into the
Yes.
chat.
Hello,
Good to
hello.
see you. So yeah, so what are your thoughts?
Well, first, I like the group makeup. I think this group, once again, I think Orem is going to find himself being the only one that's not the massive chaos factor, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But they're funny, and Bordor is quickly becoming one of my favorites. And Prism too. Like I actually like all the new players. Denise is growing on me. It's just personality wise, she's getting there. But it's funny because she's pulls out this clump of Dariax's hair, and they even made a joke about how some of his scalp was still attached because she's supposed to be this hardcore, like mob wife, Jersey housewife type, like with her long fingernails.
That's so funny.
So it is. It's funny. And then the gallows was kind of creepy, They come up to this place, they see that the ground's kind of been disturbed, and I think that they were very smart not to mess with it. So, I guess we'll see. What was the name of the town? Hearthaven? No, Hearth. Yeah. Anyways, they're headed there, and I think they're talking about trying to find a scrying spell or a way to scry their friends, and I guess it will remain to be seen, like if this is even a place where they can find that kind of magic, really. So I think it's a cool start.
I think so too. It's interesting for us too because we know what they don't. Like we know some of the things from the other group, so I'm sure they know as players, but as characters they don't know, right? So it's always cool to like see how they play that whole character knowledge, player knowledge. They're doing a great job of that. And it's got to be weird for them not. This is probably the longest time any of them have played without the other part of their group,
split.
Both sides, right? Like for being split. And so it's really interesting. And I think you're right about like the chaos factor being kind of there on like
or Orem.
Whereas the other group met kind of like very with it protector type characters that were kind of organized, and these guys are not that. So it's really kind of interesting to see. So all right, well let's keep moving. So here we go. Okay, so yeah, so they're going towards Hearthdale. That's
Hearthdale. So, okay, I couldn't remember the end of it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so Nexus Town. So they continue on. They notice that there's sort of a change in the air, sort of like an electrical current. And it reminds Laudna of the Tishtan ruins in Marquette, where the Ruby Vanguard was working with the Malleus key there. And so this is sort of a nexus of ley lines that are positioned right over Hearthdale, which is really interesting. And Prism and Orem cast some minor spells, and both of them are amplified. So Prism warns that illusion magic will be stronger here. So, be careful to not believe everything you see. And they slowly start heading towards the town, and there are dozens of buildings there, and a lot of farmland that's kind of in the vista there, as well as a large Unumback hill. They notice that there's a lumber mill and homesteads, and they see people walking and working, but everybody's kind of keeping their distance. And there's a young man in armor bearing a Dawnfather symbol, and he's walking the hill. They speak with an old man named Hender, who immediately is like, I don't trust these guys. And then an armored figure approaches, and they tell them that they're lost, and they're kind of just passing through. He tells them to go to the Telder Twins pub for lodging, and then he leaves. And Denise talks to Hender a little bit more and explains that they've lost a few people, and suggests that they speak with Prolef, the herbalist, or Elder Abedina for more information. So they're kind of getting a little bit of information about the town here, and learning about where they kind of need to go as they're heading into this new place. So I love Harry's. Yeah, when in doubt, poke it with a stick. Yeah.
No, do not touch the red button. Do not poke it with a stick.
Yeah, luckily, I think on the Bell's Hell side, for me, the two button pushers are mainly on the other group right
Yeah,
now. So
Travis is a big one.
Travis is a button pusher, and I also think Fern's character is a button pusher. But these new characters being brought in, who knows? They seem a little like button pushers, maybe too. I don't know, or at least Denise. We'll see. We'll see. So yeah. So what's your thought about them meeting with the NPCs they've gotten so far?
Well, the town seems kind of odd. It seems like you were saying that everybody is wary of strangers, or they're keeping to themselves, or like something's going on. They've got a soldier walking the hill, a religious soldier, of the Dawnfather. And then the people that they do meet are really suspicious. And I think it takes, was it Denise telling Hindle that they lost people and that they got stranded before he kind of opened up a little bit, and kind of gave them people to seek out and talk to about the phenomenon of them just showing up in this area, and just kind of bamping to where they're at. So
Yeah, it's kind of like we've talked about in other shows too. Like, it kind of reminds you of what the normal people of the realm are having to deal with when this big earth-shattering stuff goes on. Like, we only focus on the heroes of the story because we're playing, a role-playing game, and you can see the players playing their characters. But it's cool to, like, this is given a glimpse. Like, they're walking and talking to these people that are seeing the aftermath of some stuff. It's almost like I don't know, it might not be the greatest analogy, but analogy for me is like if you watch Star Wars and you watch the main storyline and you see, okay, this is cool and all the stuff going on, and then you watch a show like Andor where it shows like all the other people and how they're affected by the Empire at like a very human level. It just gives you more depth to like what's really happening. The Empire is some big mystical thing, or is one thing, but like, just like this whole Malleus Key stuff and the solstice is one thing to talk about when you're talking about grand level things. It's another thing when you're seeing how it affects everybody. So I like that you're kind of letting that creep in a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and it's really cool to note that magic is actually a little stronger, especially they've figured out illusion right now, because the other team has been having a lot of issues with their magic. So I'm wondering if it's all magic or if it's just specifically illusion magic, and if it's the location because of all of the nexus lines of the ley lines, or if like where the other group is positioned, you would think that they would have been spat out somewhere along a ley line too, but it seems like their stuff's fizzling out, whereas this group's stuff is stronger. So
I have some theories. I'll wait and see if we have enough time toward the end to talk about like the whole. So remind me about the effects of magic. I have a theory that I think might be on the right track, but we'll see how it plays out. I guess we'll gather more evidence as the story unfolds. But awesome. Okay, so the herbalist. So as they enter Hearthdale, it appears to be kind of a modest farming and lodging village, and people are keeping to themselves. So they see a monolith, a hilltop stone monolith, and two maypoles, as well as some other Dawnfather stuff. So there are a lot more. There's a bigger presence here of the Dawnfather that we've seen in other realms so far, but we'll see how this works out. And it's rare to see this kind of religious law enforcement, but it's deeply religious due to Vasselheim. So they notice a very large and extravagant white marble temple that's sticking out against like what the rest of the community looks like. It kind of sticks out from that. And so they meet Prolef at Innovar Apothecary. Apothecary. Apothecary.
Yes.
Apothecary is going to be the name of my next steed when I'm playing a character.
Your trusty steed.
Yeah, exactly. Where the magical appearance gives him hope that they are on their own. they could be okay, right? Like, so that the people that have vanished are probably fine, because if they seem okay and they got transported there, then maybe everybody's okay. So they've lost 11 people last night during their celebration of the solstice, one of whom was a 10-year-old girl. Vasselheim is ramped up on the number of guards due to the solstice, and there's actually 2 judicators there, which are these divine enforcers. We've seen them previously. Prolif explains that this is a pagan village that worships the land and spirits, calling them the Loam and the Leaf. Reminds me of sort of Shinto-ish, almost like the spirits of the realm. They've been targeted by the missionaries, who are ever present and making people feel unsafe. And so the wealthier of the 2 lumber mills, Silvercall, has really strong ties to the temples. They probably tithe a lot, and bought land out from under the village, and it led to the temple's construction 20 years ago. So the temple has been built just 20 years ago. Silvercall has taken more from the land than they should, and it's upsetting the spirits. So that's kind of where we are with that. So let's jump back over to chat. Yeah, what are your thoughts on learning that little bit of information?
Well,
there?
I really liked Prolef. He's a little bit of an older guy, I think, and he gave them a lot of really good information, and then he seemed really hopeful once they showed up and said, "Hey, we got sent here." So that, I think, gives him hope that the people that were in their village that got sent other places are okay as well. And then it's really weird for this temple, this big marble temple, to be plopped down in all this like farmland, right? Farmland, mills, just seems like it's a very kind of rural area versus a big city. And then there's this massive marble temple that's there. And then there's all these like heavy amounts of Dawnfather soldiers and 2 judicators. And so it's why this place, I guess because of the nexus of the ley lines, but it just seems very
and the proximity to Vasselheim, right? Like they're probably close enough there.
Yeah.
It feels like they're shoring stuff up, like they're trying to build, an army, so to speak. And
then in a town that's very much, they worship the elementals, or they work hand in hand with the land. They're not Dawnfather followers. They had their whole society built around living with nature, and it's like a hippie commune. And then all this mill comes in and rapes the land, and then the next thing you know, this big monstrosity has been built, and they have all of these soldiers. So it's pretty oppressive to the town and to the land, and I think it's offensive to the elementals that, for the most part, have been part of the history of this town. So it will be interesting to see how that goes forward.
It is interesting. It feels very much like inspiration from what we see with colonialism in general, like with religious orders coming in and sort of coming into play. It is tricky though. Like this, what I think is interesting about this whole sort of this experience of being a game, being a story, like whatever anybody's real beliefs in the real world are, like in the game, the gods are real, like they're doing their thing, like, so magic is real, like all these things are
the elementals are real things. The Dawnfather's real.
It's very much like you're seeing how this plays out, like in real time, like where power comes from one area, or the belief in one affecting the other. It's really interesting to see how it plays out with this. But I think you're right. Like the whole analogy of it being sort of like sort of a hippie kind of commune almost is there.
We're one with nature.
yeah. But there's some people that don't really fit that exact description, as we'll find. I think a little bit of a I don't know, a little bit of twist on that. But so, Loam and the Leaf. So Prism gives Prolif a magical note and asks where they can speak freely, which I thought was great. I mentioned this during watching it, that I think she does the best at like utility spells and making things work in campaigns. So, so if people are watching and listening, she gives him a way to, have a way out. And so he suggests to go to the Notborough, which is the home of the elder. And the missionaries have been more intense in the last 5 months. Judicators in particular like to bully. And Ashton asks if he's heard Ludinus' speech. And Prolef says, yes, they all heard the voice from the sky. Again, voice from the sky, still not sure of, how that all plays out. So last night was the Maypole competition. The winner, Viola, was one of those taken during the solstice. Bordor asks if there were any sacrifices, but Prolef assures that that's not how they live. They don't do it that way. They ask about the gallows. It's disused. One victim kind of set a curse on the crossroads, so only grave robbers go there now. So it's a good thing they kind of ventured away from that when they were coming into town. They get some healing salves, and Bordor buys a very strong laxative, which Prolef trades him for a future favor, which was interesting. And then they leave the apothecary and head to the Elder's home. They're kind of like on edge a little bit up by the town and the temple. And Laudna theorizes that those that teleported who heard Ludinus were the ones closest to the nexus points, which is an interesting thought. They arrive at Notborough with 2-story cottage covered in vines, and the vines kind of move and inspect them. They declare themselves as friends of the Loam and the Leaf, and they're welcome to join Elder Join Abedina, a half-giant druid, which pretty imposing figure. So let's jump over to the chat. Where's Ragnaros when you need him? Yeah, very cool. Yeah, great point. That's funny. Yeah, so what are your thoughts?
I mean, I think there's some good theories. I think whether people are hearing them in their mind or whether they're hearing them from the sky or what, apparently a lot of people have heard Ludinus and what all he was pushing as a solution to getting rid of the gods. And, it's going to be, I think, paramount kind of to what's going on with the whole group. And I think it's interesting that the one group has a paladin or a cleric of the Dawn Father in it. Yeah. And then the other group is like down with the man, So
no, I was thinking the same thing. Yeah. It's very much like it shows the difference between it's great. It was just so well done, right? Like, because that shows like a whole different perspective of what's going on. Also, if you think about it, the Bell's Hells that appeared there met up with on that other side of the campaign, met up with 2 other NPCs, some of which they already had connection to, but that were from that area. This is the first time that a group of Bell's Hells are seeing other people that were also transported. So what's interesting is on the other side with Fern and that whole group, they don't know if what happened to the people that got transported, whereas on this side they actually know, oh, we got transported here and so do these other people, so they can at least have a glimmer of hope that the other part of their group is somewhere, right? Like they can at least feel that, and so they're focused on, I think, although they're still trying to find their friends, the drive to kind of help with the mission is also there, trying to figure out what's going on, which I think we're seeing a little bit in a lot of the conversations and stuff too. So it's really interesting the way it's playing out. I think it's a good kind of dichotomy. All right, so the Elder. So Elder Abedina calls them travelers of the ley line tangle, which is interesting. The timing of their arrival is strange because of the strengthened magic beneath the Nexus, and she and her family have been soothsayers of the village for generations, and she can speak to the Demethor Eidolons, the spirits of the land, and she asks their opinions on the prime deities. Denise, Bordor, and Prism are not fans of the god, like you were talking about, and Bordor calling out the temple's damage to Hearthdale. Orym says that the followers are usually a bigger problem than the gods themselves, though some gods are horrific. And there are a bunch of examples of abuse of power in Exandria, either from government or the faith. And they saw forces that aim to pull the gods down. So Orym thinks that the problems here are a response to that and maybe an overreach, trying to correct some things. With Orym's permission, Abadina has him inhale a strange pink dust, which allows her to see his experiences with the Malleus Key, Odahan Thul, and the attacks on Keyleth. Abadina believes that the people are born free and they are robbed from their freedom by those with money and power, and that there's no higher form of government than control, and control began in Vasselheim. So, she's like that militant side of the hippie, I guess, that you were talking about.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
she's ready to fight back, which, I don't blame her.
She's
but
the libertarian hippie.
yeah, she's ready to go. So
She's like down with the man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I like her though. But I'm partial to druids anyways, and the fact that she can speak with the land and with the elementals, and I think she's had the most compelling argument for the gods needing to, or the people who are, because I think the power starts in Vasselheim, the control starts in Vasselheim. Well, Vasselheim's a religious state, or religious country, or it's all steeped in all of this religion, and by that control. And so it's gonna be hard, I think, because I feel like Orym has so many emotions tied up with his family getting murdered and Keyleth getting harmed and all the stuff that happened at the Malleus Key in support of Ludinus and his idea. But I think they're trying to make the point that the idea isn't bad. It's the people who are trying to facilitate the idea and how they're going about it. So I'm anxious to see how Orym takes the information and the kind of shift in ideology, I guess, and what he does with it. Because I think to this point, he's been squarely against Predathos and, and the whole idea with what Ludinus has done because of the things that happened to his family and the death that has surrounded everything and how Ludinus has gone about things. So
it's because of Ludinus that the two people he loved the most are dead.
Yes.
And, the people that he's looked up to and worked against are, that's who Ludinus is also fighting against, Keyleth, and trying to do, so even just from a personal standpoint, he's got to be like, no, I'm taking this guy down no matter what. There's no way I can side with him, because even if he's right in theory about some issues with the gods, the way he's going about everything is just completely wrong.
He's a horrible person.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's really interesting. But again, we're seeing that what the real people around the world, not just the ones that are the heroes of this small story that is becoming a huge story, we're seeing what the real impact is to everybody. Which is always cool. Deity debates. So Laudna expresses the concern that getting rid of the gods will create a power vacuum, and it'll be filled by those who wish to fill it, that may have actually worse intentions than the other deities do. So Abadina thinks that sometimes things need to crumble before they can be rebuilt, and she says that it'll take a vacuum that banishes the greatest oppressors for a chance for the world to become better. From having been under the feet of these gods for so long. So Abadina heard Ludinus' speech last night. It's weird that it's just last night for them. And he's the first mortal since the matron of Raven's ascension whose actions have made the gods fearful of anything. Orym says that Ludinus was willing to kill anyone standing in his way, like we were just talking about. So she thinks that his path may be a bit lost, but she can argue with his philosophy, which, again, that is not sitting well with Orym, and he's tired of the debates and just wants to go help his friends. Laudna thinks it's time to stop killing in the name of the gods, whether it's for or against, and Abadina would like to help them, but she wants them to help her first, and if they help her free the village from the temple, then she will help them return to the others, and she can scry on her friends and learn where they are. And she's already located 3 of their lost villagers this way, so they know it's possible now. Want to go back and talk about that, or you want to keep going?
We can keep going.
Yeah, because we hit on most of that actually when we were talking before. Um, so the group does agree, and they attend a meeting at the brewery, and they hear all the villagers have to say, and then they arrive at the brewery and overhear conversations, kind of talking about the cruelty of the guards and how they're all anxious about it, how they've lost loved ones. There are about 80 villagers that are ready to take everything back from them, and Abadina addresses the community and assures them that she has been slowly finding their people and will work with the Eidolons to bring them back. She gives a speech about their oppression under the gods and the new opportunity to bring about change. And there are people across Exandria who were once powerless and can now stand up to take action. So they talk about the missionaries being cruel because they're just as scared as the gods. They can't waste this opportunity of the solstice to seize the moment and get everyone out. So yeah, there's this whole rousing speech. It brings the villagers together, and the ones that are willing to fight, they come to the front, and Prism joins them, though she does so invisibly. That was really funny. And Ashton believes that they, as outsiders, kind of have to take part. So Ashton, Laudna, and Bordor step up. Denise tells Orem that the town isn't going to take down the gods, and he just says none of this matters now, and they both go step up. So yeah, so this is kind of giving a little glimpse of where he's sitting, I think.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I think that it's really hard for him, and I think he's really upset by the whole conversation, but I think he also realizes that in the grand scheme of things, this fight with the town, or this like coming together with the town to take back their town, isn't what lewdness is doing. I think he had to pull himself out of thinking about killing the gods and think about, like, okay, I'm going to help these townspeople because she actually does have a way. She has a scry well. She has a way to find the friends. And so I think that's first and foremost, and that's the top of his list, is to find his friends, because overall, this one fight isn't going to win the war.
Right.
And so I think he's choosing to just fall in with the rest of the group and go along just to get where he needs to go. So
I agree. I think it's like we were saying, I think, well, let's be honest. I think Orem, since the beginning, since Exandria Unlimited, like since we first saw that character, he's always been on the straight and narrow, sort of a man of principle. And
I mean, he could almost be a paladin,
Yeah,
I mean, he's
so just
very,
honorable.
very honorable, straightforward, good intentions.
Not lawful stupid, but
No.
just very honorable.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the right thing, Boy Scout, type of quality, right? And so, and I think it's good. Like, it's cool. It's like he has the Boy Scout Superman personality, not like the power of Superman, but like the Boy Scout Superman personality of I'm going to do everything for truth and justice type of thing, and try to right the wrongs that people are facing. I think, though, like you said, he's now having to do things that he never really thought he had to do before, which is say, I'm going to have to do some things that are maybe in gray areas because I have to get to my friends, to get things done. And he's got to do them anyway. He's got to go that way, because if he doesn't, there's no progress forward. There's no way to get to the end goal. So he's now having to deal with these gray area decisions that are really hard for him, but Liam's doing such a good job with it. It's
well, and ultimately, he's not gonna allow the whole rest of his group to go and him not go. It's tough, because that's where the decision has to be made. Is are you just gonna go with all the other guys that didn't want to fight, or are you gonna help us? And so he just was like, nope, I'm coming too, and then he
I love
committed fully to it. So
yeah, I while all that stuff is happening though, I love the fact that Prism's invisible, and like when someone asks for someone to step up, she's like, "I'll
yeah,
step forward too." Of course, I'm just invisible; no one knows I just did it. I just thought it was just really. She's playing a great character
yeah,
too. Like
she's awesome.
they're all doing a great job. All right, back to critical recap. Let's head down to standard fall. All right. All right, action. So, the plan is for the warriors to head into the forest while Orim and Bordor take alcohol to the temple gates and ask for an audience with their leader, Flame Guide Kira, which Flame Guide is like a title. And they'll explain that they have some information about Ludinus and try to convince them to leave willingly. And if they refuse, then the village will attack without restraint. They're just going to go for it.
They're just gonna kill him.
Orim sets the signal phase for the attack as that's unfortunate. Bordor and Orim approach the Sunrise Sanctuary temple with the full Cartavale and tells the guard they have offerings for the guards and the gods, convinces them to have some alcohol, and he pours the super laxative that he got into their drinks. Orim explains that he saw the events of the Apogee Solstice firsthand, and he convinces the guard to retrieve the Flame Guide and notices mist around the temple moving intelligently, which is the Eidolons doing their thing. They're kind of like around that temple, going in and out in mist form. I'm going to keep going, and then we'll talk through as we go. So the Flame Guide comes out and on the roof of the temple and demands that they speak or they're going to be banished. Orin claims to be a representative of Zephyra and the town, and the foremost mage of the Cerberus Assembly wants to tear down the gods, and he basically says, "Here's what's happening," and telling them that he's Orim's enemy, which makes Orim and his friends, really, the temple's friends. And the Dawnfather's followers need to be in Hellcat Valley stopping Ludinus. They need to be over there, not trying to take down these farmers for no apparent reason. And even though there's this impassioned speech there, the Flame Guide is not really impressed by it. She accuses Orim of alliances with Ludinus and demands
dalliances.
Dalliances. Thank you. Dalliances with Ludinus and demands they be arrested in order to speak, which is worse than
it is so worse.
It's worse,
especially for somebody like that was responsible for killing his husband.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. In order to speak with Spruce. That's why. Okay, Orim tells her that's unfortunate. Oh, it was perfectly done in that whole deal. And the villagers charge in and attack as Bordor fails to convince the guard to join them, and Prism dimension doors herself and Denise into the temple with the Judicator. Yeah. And, this 8-foot-tall Judicator behemoth there. Emily, for canonizing the Cerberus Assembly trading cards. That's funny. They had that little scene where she said, "I got all the trading cards." The Eidolons sound really interesting. Nature spirits that work in harmony with the people in the land. Are they descendants of the primordials? Like what you're saying, that could be.
Yeah.
Hearthdale and the Loam and the Leaf are fascinating. Getting to see different perspectives on the god and nature, particularly in Isilro, which we haven't really done before, is also very exciting. So, we've come to the close of that episode. But what do you think? How this is wrapping up here and moving into just 20 minutes from now?
Yeah. Well, I find it interesting that the Flame Guide, she just wasn't even really interested to hear what they were saying. She was really arrogant. Now I know some of the roles came into play for that, but like she just was like peons,
Yeah.
And I find it interesting that she said she could she could rebuke them, or she could send them out of the village, even like they own the village.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it just shows you how much they think that they have control of these people. And even with Orem telling her, listen, we were there. This is where you need to go. Like, you don't need to have all of the people here. These judicators don't need to be here. They need to be in Hellcatch Valley, not with their heels on the boots of, you know, with their heel on the necks of the townsfolks, because the townspeople are terrified, and they've got people missing, they've got stuff going on, and then they've got this huge presence with these religious folks who frankly have no clue what's really happening. They're just scared. And so they're flexing their muscle everywhere. I do think it's funny that they dimension doored inside, and then they were like, oh no, we immediately hid, because they like right in there with the judicator. Oh no, can we hide really fast? And then of course Matt's like, and we're gonna end there, and I'm like, oh, because he had just brought, you know, the maps out. So
and
we kind of already have
because they had to push one. He had to push one forward because of them coming in and being able to see the rest. So they're going to start.
And in 20 minutes, we'll be able to pick up that battle.
That's right. That's right.
So it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be crazy. Especially we haven't seen the judicators in action yet.
Yeah.
We've seen them. We've seen them intimidating and walking around, and you know, here, and then in the other town, I can't remember what the name of the town was, the one that had all the lakes and stuff where they had the rings. We've seen them there, but we haven't actually seen them in action. So I'm a little scared for the guys.
It's going to be really interesting to see how that all plays out. Before we,
and then they're all going to be pooping their pants.
That's right.
You know, like Bordor gave them all this ale.
Yeah,
with laxative in it, super strong
for the
laxative
bomb to go off. Yeah.
Oh God.
That's the long game right there.
Right.
So what I was going to say earlier about the magic being amped up, like with the they noticed that the illusion magic and that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of piecing it together. So then on the other side, when they went through when the other group went to go find Ludinus's old tower, and they were going through, and everything was warped and crazy looking, and the Meleasmere, and then also on the other side, they realized they couldn't send messages. They weren't sure how the teleportation stuff was working. They were able to teleport away. They don't know if they can come back. So I had this theory that we talked about, I think you did too, where you have Predathos that had also consumed two other entities. One was the Fate Weaver, and the other one was, I'm blanking. If you're in the chat and you remember, let me know. I think that those two entities...
Shadow something. It was Shadow something.
Yes, and that's why I think those two entities became or opened or somehow formed the Fey Realm and the Shadowfell. That's what those two things became. I think what's going on now with the solstice and trying to get things together is that things are creeping in, and the nexus of all these lines and these ley lines crossing and all these things are making it so that elements from both of them are creeping in. Example being, it's very interesting to me, it could be Shadowfell type stuff that happened over where Ludinus's old tower was that may be affecting that area even worse than it was before. It could be the amplification of illusion and fey magic that's causing some of those things to pop up. It could be that the issue with those two different planes is causing the teleportation stuff to go weird, and the message being sent from one place to another to go all crazy. I don't know exactly how it's all fitting together, but I think it's those things. I think it's due to the fact that all three planes, if we remember back to where they were putting the Malleus keys, he had one on each one of those planes. And I think it's due to the fact that those two entities became or formed the Fey Realm and the Shadowfell. their shadow
Okay.
realm, whatever
Yeah.
it's called. That's just my thought about it.
I mean,
I could be
it
completely
makes a
off,
lot of
but
sense because of the types of like realms they became. You know, it's
yeah,
very indicative of what the names of the gods were, and then they disappeared. Predathos consumed them, but was that creation, you know, was some of that the price for containing him? You know, is it weakening his barriers, is bringing them closer together? You know, it's all kind of mismatching things up a little bit. And with the ley lines, there's just people getting spit out everywhere along the, you know, they catch a wind and then
right,
they're somewhere else. Or I want to find out if there's a purpose for the people. There's a reason why the certain people are being taken too. You know, are they, you know, are they Rudis born, or they have little seeds in them? Are they, you
yeah,
know, or are they just random, wrong place at the wrong time? Or is
maybe,
it like a purposeful thing just because of the type of magic that they have, or like what the circumstances of their birth was? So
yeah,
but I think you're right. I think you're onto something there with the realms being created by these two different entities that Predathos consumed, which is interesting, right? Like if he consumed these two gods, forgotten gods or whatever, and they created other realms, how is that still affecting, you know, the realm? You know, like how is that?
yeah. I think I, I don't know, but those are the two realms that are like overlapping the material plane, right? So they're the closest of all the realms.
Right.
So, and I think the ethereal are also there.
Do
But
you
anyway,
think
those are the ones that are there, and it might be tied to the fact that Prothos is close too.
Or do you think it
Um,
was a byproduct of him consuming those two?
that could be too, that the energy released or the, you know, the things that they were tied to snapped, or I don't know. It could be some consequence of him consuming them, or maybe he didn't fully consume them. Maybe what was remaining of them created those realms. So um,
Yeah.
I don't know. Or the imprisonment left a shadow of them, or a glimpse of them. Hence the shadow realm and the spirit of the amplified spirit and emotion of the Fey realm. I don't know. I'm kind of just making it up on the fly, but I guess we'll see. But
Yeah.
yeah, and I guess 12 minutes from now we'll see how this whole battle turns out.
I
So
know. I mean, it's
um,
this huge, massive marble temple with, they've got tons and tons and tons and tons of soldiers. And they've
yep.
got a lot of farmers and people willing to fight, but they only had, what did he say, like 12 really like battle worn,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, not counting the group, you
Yep.
know, people who have fought. And Bordor's like, I've never killed anyone. You know? I'm suspicious of that guy, by the way. Like, he's just
I don't
too
know.
mischievous. I don't know. I don't know. I'm a
Part of that
little,
is me thinking the player trying to come up with cool stuff,
yeah, because
and
it's
the character,
really, he hasn't played in a while, I think. So,
yeah,
or a lot. And so I think he is trying to be, I think he's trying to be helpful to the team
yeah, yeah,
as a character, but it's also like, hmm, all
yeah.
right, Bordor, dog
But
son.
of anything, right? Like, part of me is like, if he's really trying to help, like, the a high school prank of laxatives is like the least aggressive way to get rid of the guards, right? Like, maybe he is honestly trying not to hurt people. So, like,
Well,
that
and
might have been
I
his
think
way
it's
of,
funny that they rolled up and he's like, "We want to convert." Like,
yeah.
no, don't say that. You don't
It
want to
was funny.
convert.
Yeah, it's so funny. And
I
they're
love
like,
him. He's
the temple's
hilarious.
closed. No, he's great. The
Exactly.
temple's. You want to convert now? It's like,
There's no worshiping happening.
come back when we're open. Yeah.
But I
Oh
have
man.
beer.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Oh man.
tobacco, which they're
Yes.
kind of playing off like it's weed or something, you know? It's
I think
like,
he was. I don't think Matt was. I think
yeah,
originally it was just tobacco, but I think he's
yeah.
taken it that level, kind of hoping it was because he's
Wacky
trying to mess
tobacco.
with the guards. Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. All
Yeah.
right.
So
Well.
I definitely think, you know, it's kind of interesting doing this right before the new show starts, and then that way it's kind of exciting because we're going to go straight into kind of following up with the fight. So
yeah, maybe I'll put a poll out to see if they want us to do this lead up next time too. We'll see if we need to do a permanent.
Well,
schedule
and
change, but
we've got Candela Obscura is now
That's
out,
right.
so we can do
Yep.
our video on it because we didn't want to do any spoilers before they release their official videos.
That's right.
So
If you haven't watched, we did a live stream, which is also on demand right now, where we talk about Candela Obscura as a game, not the exact game that they played and what happened, but as a game and as a system, and Illuminated Worlds, the system behind it. And we did sort of our initial take on it. But yeah, you're right. We'll have one of those soon. We'll do a live stream where we talk about that official game. Those are going to be monthly, so we'll do less of those because they'll be doing less of those. But stay tuned. All right, and thanks for everybody in the chat. If you think of anything later, you can always add it to the comments in the video on YouTube. But have fun watching tonight, and we'll catch you next time. All right, bye everybody.
Bye.